Okay, YouTube, sorry I had a break in the video. I had to swap out my batteries. My battery died on me, so I had to put my second one in there. I believe I left off at the arms gas block front sight combo. Just talking a little bit about arms and their mounting devices and how they don't work very well with optics sometimes, or they degrade over time. This piece, I went with it because the Knight's Armament piece is like 450 bucks, and that was just very uneconomic for me. And I kind of looked at it as, you know, it's a front sight, you know, gas block. You know, you really can't really mess that up, so to say. I mean, you can, but I didn't think that they would. And I put it on there, and after 5,000 rounds, I've not had a single round with the gas system on this gun. And when you start getting into these SBRs, the gas systems are very important because, you know, you're already running a shorter barrel, and I've seen some, you know, 10.5-inch guns, they not run correctly, you know, and it's all in your buffer and spring combination too. You know, that's almost a science within itself. And you know, I've talked to some guys that know a whole lot more about these things than me, and you know, I finally decided that 11.5 inches was going to be my barrel, you know, my barrel length, because that wasn't really going to sacrifice the maneuverability of the weapon as an entry gun, as a close quarters fighting rifle. And you know, I was still not probably going to, you know, still not sacrificing any reliability, because reliability is usually the first priority to me when I am building a weapon, or I'm looking to buy a weapon or using a weapon. So you know, going back, the receiver is the VLTOR MUR 1 with forward assist and deflector. When I built this rifle a few years ago, I thought that they were going to be the best milled receiver you can get. You know, it's a solid milled piece. You know, I looked at it as I wanted the best upper receiver money could buy, and you know, that's why I went with them. I wanted a milled receiver. It's been strengthened in areas. It's strengthened the receiver walls for you know, extra rigidity, and it's milled. It's not forged, which makes it stronger. So a little bit more expensive, but definitely well worth it. And you know, and going back to the rail, you know, I went with the Daneil Defense unit because it was kind of the standard at the time. You know, they're a pain in the ass to install. They got their own weird proprietary wrench and nut and everything like that. If Centurion Arms would have had the same rail they do now, if they would have had a 9.5-inch carbine FSP rail out when I did this, I probably would have went with the Centurion unit just because it uses a standard barrel nut. But it wasn't out, so I went with what was on the market. I mean, it's a good rail though. It's free floating, continuous top. I mean, I can't complain. It does everything I need it to do. No issues there. It's fairly light. The lower receiver, I went with a Spikes Tactical, and there was a few reasons why I did. Mainly is that I found one super cheap. You know, my buddy cut me a deal on it. My buddy that owned a gun store, he sold it to me for like I think 50 bucks is what I paid for it. You know, and it kind of worried me at first. I was like, oh, I'm gonna buy something that's a little bit hobbyish. You know, I was worried about buying a product that was hobbyish. You know, I didn't want anything that wasn't, you know, hard use, mil spec, you know, operational grade, lower receiver. But as time is going by, I'm really glad that I did. I don't know a whole lot about Spike's manufacturing process, but this lower receiver seems to be built to spec pretty well. It ejects and locks magazines exactly how it should. It takes every magazine that I've thrown into it, to include, you know, GI, HK, Magpul, Lancers, and I think maybe a couple other ones. I have ran through there that I can't remember, but it's all locked them in place very well and used them very well. So I'm guessing that it was, you know, this thing was manufactured right, and it's to spec and everything. On the internals of the bolt carrier group, I got the Daneil Defense bolt carrier group. You know, it was head spaced perfectly. to you know, the chamber of the barrel and everything. I've had no issues there. Daneil Defense, as many people know, they make a pretty damn close, you know, for all intents and purposes, they make a mil-spec weapon components and weapons, especially in their bolt carrier groups. It's operated flawlessly. It's been in the rifle since I built it. The trigger, yeah, at the time I built this, Geissele's were just coming onto the market and getting popular. So at the time, on all my my carbines and entry guns and all that stuff, I only ran mil-spec triggers. And this is actually, I want to say this is a mil-spec trigger from Spike's Tactical as well, their lower parts kit. And it's, I mean, it's a mil-spec trigger. You know, it feels just like a mil-spec trigger. And a lot of people, you know, they say mil-spec trigger, you know, well, one of the tolerances people don't, or one of the things that people don't know is the mil-spec for the triggers, it's actually pretty wide. Like, the government will accept anything that has between like 4.5 and 9 pounds of trigger pull on their M4 and M4A1 carbines. That's just crazy. That'd be unacceptable to me. This one feels just like every other M4 carbine I've ever had to use in my career. So you know, it's an efficient trigger, well designed. You know, I'm not the best out there. On the side note, I have bought a Geissele SSAE that I have in all my other guns. I just haven't put it in. Too lazy. You know, I'll get around to it one of these days. I just don't consider it that big of a deal. Also added onto the lower is, you can see it kind of right there, is that I got the bad lever. It's on the flip side there, and I'm still kind of on the wall. It's the first time I'd ever tried it on this gun. You know, with an entry gun, I guess the possibility for speed reloads are greater or more important, so I thought that would enhance my capability for an emergency reload, so I put it on there. You know, I blew Loctite the screw that locks into the bolt catch, and it still comes loose every maybe year. Every year I gotta, you know, re-Loctite it and retighten it down really good. Other than that, it's never fallen completely off, just because it's kind of loose, and you're pretty cognizant of it when you use it. So it's not like it's just gonna come up on you and bite you in the ass one day. The optic, I won't talk too much about the optic because that's a whole nother subject. But pretty much on all of my standard carbines, I run only one kind of optic now, and on my personal ones, I should say, and that's the T1 Micro with the LaRue tall boy mount, and that's all I run. I'll probably explain what goes into an optic selection, why, and what dictates that. You know, your operational environments, your role within your unit, things like that. You know, and why I choose what I choose for a personal setup, not for a military setup, because I've actually never ran a T1 Micro in a military role before. But I choose them on my personal guns, and I'll get into that later. Moving back, I got the Troy Industry flip-ups, the rear flip-up sight. It's a good sight. I like it. It's very robust, locks positively. It has the 2 apertures that I really like. It does everything you need it to do. It's a good sight. The charging handle, I run gas buster charging handles on every single one of my guns. And the reason why is because I obviously like to run my gun suppressed, and I don't want gas getting blown in my face and that stuff. And other than that, you know, PRI were the only people that really made a good, effective gas busting charging handle. Now I think BCM now has a gas busting one for their BCM gunfighter line. I'm not sure. I can't positively confirm that. If they do in the future, I might switch over to the BCM gas buster if this is indeed true, because I know they redesigned their charging handles and the roll pins in them to you know, they beef them up so that way it's a little bit more reliable, so you don't bend them. Because I've seen standard Colt charging handles, guys will put the big latches on them, you know, and they'll end up bending the actual charging handle inside the receiver because they pull at it at an angle, and it will start to bend, especially if it has a high round count. I've used PRI gas busting charging handles on a couple of my deployments in my work rifle, and it worked flawlessly. I've never had it bend. It might even be, it kind of looks like it's almost made of a different metal, but I can't specify that. But it has a it looks to have a standard charging handle design in respect to the roll pin and the manufacturing, but I've used the shit out of them. This one specifically has been on my work gun on my last deployment, and it came home and was put back onto my personal carbine, and it, you know, I've never had an issue with it. You know, it has a big latch, nice and easy to grab, and if you're running a suppressor, it doesn't blow gas in your face. So, you know, it's a win-win there. I really like it. Can't say enough. On the going in the back, I like the CTR stocks, and butt stock selection is really important. And you know, in the military standard issue, you got two options. You know, usually you got the crane, and then you got the standard carbine butt stock. And I don't like either one. The main reason why I don't like the crane is because I don't like the angle of the cheek weld. It doesn't really just work quite, I guess, with my body type or my style of shooting. And then the reason why I don't like the standard carbine is because of the locking system. It seems like it's fairly easy for the locking system on a standard carbine stock to get fouled, and then, you know, it's really hard to actuate it, to get it to move into position, and then it might get really loose at sometimes. It's not, bottom line is, a standard carbine stock I feel doesn't have enough positive locking in it to be reliable enough. And not only that, it doesn't have any modern sling attachments like these cool little quick detached swing swivels that the crane and the CTRs and all these new modern stocks have. So that's why I don't like running those. I've had to run both of them. You see a lot of guys that run the, you know, they buy their CTRs or MOs and put them on their rifles for that purpose. You know, I've actually never done that. I've owned a bunch of these CTR stocks. I've never put them on a work gun. I've always just used what was, you know, what I had available to me at the unit level. You know, if I had to go over there again, I probably would. You know, just because I guess it is a noticeable difference. You know, it's a good stock. You got more positive locking. You know, it's not just a, you know, a tab. And I feel that this mechanism and how it locks lends itself to be more reliable because it doesn't get fouled as easier. But then again, you know, I don't have any real world use with this kind of stock, so I won't talk too much about it. I got the standard, I got a 6-position buffer tube. I forgot who made it was. It's milspec. I think I got it from BCM or I don't know. It was a reputable manufacturer. This rifle was built years ago, so it's getting hard. And then for a sling attachment device, you see it here. I'll pick the rifle up. So you see that there, and that's the Daneil Defense end plate, you know, sling attachment, and I like it. It's super low profile, and you can fully collapse your stock with it in, which you can't do with some of the other ones. And it's super strong, and it's never failed me. You know, it is a permanent fix. You know, I know some of the Tango down units, it's not a permanent fix. You just, it comes over your buffer tube. This actually replaces your end plate. I like them because it doesn't go off. I made the mistake of, on one of my deployments, of getting a Midwest Industries one that you know, comes over your buffer tube and, you know, screws in with a, I'm sorry, I got a head cold, with a set screw, and that thing backed out on me in the middle of a firefight, and my sling was just going all over the place, and I was like, never again. I will never trust another Midwest Industries product ever again. So, and that's why I don't. Lesson learned there. But no, this one's been pretty good. This carbine gets used pretty hard, and no problems there. The sling I use, you know, you see I always use a 2-point. Every sling I've ever used has always been the 2-point, the Blue Force Gear Vickers application sling. That's what I use. When they first came out, I switched to them and never looked back. Before that, I used the Viking Tactics 2-point adjustable, because, you know, those were out before that. Another good sling. I just like these better because it doesn't have the free moving adjusting handle. This one's just like a little, you know, 4-inch piece of heavy sewn nylon. You know, you don't have anything dragging behind you or getting caught. You know, that's why I like this one. But they're both good. I've used both. But this is now what I run on all my carbines. And I'll do another. I want to do a specific video on 2- and 1-point slings, because you see a lot of people talking about how 1-point slings are the shit and it's best for transitions and this and that. And I'm going to go over this why it may not be the best sling choice for a military end user, unless you're doing something very specific, or you're doing a very specific task. You know, just my thoughts on it, and I've seen guys run 1 points and 2 points, and you know, I'm definitely a 2-point fan. So, yeah, this is my review of the rifle. I think I've pretty much gone over everything. I got a standard little MAID grip on it. That's pretty much what I have. Really big hands, so I like to have a really big grip, and the MAID grip with the big back strap is about the biggest one out there. That's what I put on it. Everything else is pretty standard on it. This carbine has over 5,000 rounds on it. I gotta look at my range card again, but this rifle has some substantial use. And I know some guys are gonna be like, you know, oh, unless you got 20,000 rounds in your weapon, don't tell me about it. Well, you know, I think 5,000 rounds is a pretty good gauge of reliability. And I had only one malfunction with the rifle, and it was magazine related. It was not the weapon's fault. It's completely magazine related. I mean, the gun is not overgassed or undergassed. It seems to be gassed just perfectly, suppressed and unsuppressed. I guess it's testament to, you know, BCM in their barrel. I don't know what diameter porthole the barrel has in it. I guess I could find out, but it seems to work just fine. Very good shooting gun. You know, with the suppressor, it's extremely well shooting. I don't like to run the suppressor most of the times on it, you know, because it adds like an extra 4 inches to the muzzle. But I mean, it's a good piece. If I was to do it over again, I would probably either, like I said, main thing I would change would be the maybe put the Centurion arms rail on it, or in hindsight, you know, just get rid of the, you know, go to a low pro gas block and just maybe put like the URX2 carbine length full rail on there. You know, but you know, this rail works fine. It was a good quality rail. Other than that, the other thing is on triggers, you know, I don't like to run the super light triggers on these things. You know, I used to only like to run the milspec, and I kind of converted over to the SSAE. And I'm still a little hesitant about switching this gun over to the SSAE because I want a more definite responsive trigger, especially when I'm shooting close quarters. Some guys are going to be like, no, you want a super light trigger to get as many rounds off as possible. Well, not necessarily. You know, I guess that's one train of thought, you know, but I also don't kind of want, I kind of want to have more positive control over my rounds. And not saying that you can't have that with those triggers, because you can, obviously. You see guys do it all the time, but for me personally, I just like to have more of a definite trigger. I feel like that gives it to me. So, you know, other than that, you know, the standard twist rate in the barrel, nothing fancy there. It's a standard BCM barrel. On my carbines, on my short, I forgot one piece, and that's the Tango Down vert grip. I do like to run a vert grip, especially on these short guns. Usually on the longer, I guess you can say, if it has a 13-inch or longer handguard system, I'll run a hand stop. But if I'm working with a carbine link gas system and I only got like a 9-10-inch rail space, I run a vertical, usually a short vertical foregrip. And the reason why is, one, I know where to put my hand. Two, it allows me to get more purchase on the gun. A little hand stop, you know, I only got like, what, a little inch of actual plastic material to back my hand up against. Well, this right here, I got a good 4 inches, and I can get my hand up on this, you know, flip the gun around so you can actually see. You know, I can actually get my hand up really good on this and support it, you know. So that's why I like running this, because I don't do I don't shoot thumb overboard. I shoot thumb forward, you know, like a handgun. You know, I shoot thumb forward, and I do that for a variety of reasons, mostly because of the accessories I run on the gun. And this gun is not set up how it normally is. Normally this gun has a D-ball, the Class 1 D-ball on there, and then it has a surefire Scout Light with Vampire head on it. And that's normally how this gun is set up. I took them off for the purpose of this video. Not for the purpose of this video, I had taken them off because I was playing around with them on another weapon system, and I just didn't put them back on. And then I run a a dual pressure switch, usually right here. So I'll have the Surefire dual pressure switch unit, so that way I can manipulate with my thumb right here the my light and laser. You know, it's pretty easy, just like you know, it's similar to the SOP mod dual pressure switch for the Insight units. But that's the way I like to have my guns. I don't do the thumb over board to actuate my LA5 or PEG 15, which I find is a little bit harder with a D-ball. But that's my setup. I really don't see a need for continuous on switch for the light either. It's kind of a niche. You know, you treat your light on off. You shoot, it's on. You shoot, it's off, sort of thing. And the finish on this gun, it's just Brownell's Alumahide. Straight up, they're flak dark earth, and it matches Magpul like pretty much dead on. Their color, and it's a pretty robust finish on the weapon. I've probably shot it for about 2,000 or 3,000 rounds with it painted like this, and it's, you know, you can barely see. You know, there's some around the wear areas, around the rails, the sharp edges of the rifle. It's worn out a little bit, but other than that, the finish is retained. You know, 98% of the weapon, to include even the rail where I'm taking on and off all my accessories and I'm gripping most of the time. It's still remained pretty good. And I'll get into another video on why you should paint your weapon as well. You'll almost see I never have a weapon that isn't painted, a long weapon that isn't painted, and there's a very specific reason behind it. So this is my video on my 11.5 inch, what I like to call an entry gun, for making entry into a, you know, a mount environment, a Battle Drill 6 environment. You know, any questions on what I have on the gun, or how I have it set up, or why I have it set up, or why I run what I run, you know, feel free to ask. I'll let you know. But on the flip side, you know, if you're just going to post something dumb like gay setup or something, I'm just going to probably delete you, because that's not constructive to anybody. You know, but if you say, you know, if you have a comment, you know, you should run this way, I'll look at it, I'll examine it. So I'm always wanting to learn to make me more effective. And that's my video on my custom 11.5 inch SBR.